Hello and welcome back to VBuzz. You're still here with myself, Shrita, as well as Swarna. Now, last month, Swarna, I had the pleasure of interviewing environmental activist Gurmit Singh, and we spoke about how he used his bicycle years ago to raise awareness in Kuala Lumpur about the air pollution levels.
Yeah.
Now, our next guests also used their bicycles to raise awareness on a different issue, that being unity. Now, these two men mounted their bicycles to cycle 700 kilometers across Malaysia in the name of unity. Collin and Sadiq Albar are the founders of Project 57, a social enterprise promoting awareness for the need for greater unity amongst Malaysians. This nationwide cycling event, the Project 57 Unity Ride, took place across 42 days, consisted of 9 legs, and through the travels, the cyclists hoped to bring out all sorts of stories of people across the country. We find out what sort of stories they dug up on the Unity Ride as we speak to Collin and Sadiq right now. Welcome to VBuzz, Collin, Sadiq.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
So the ride actually wrapped up on Malaysia Day, September the 16th. What made you want to do something like this in the first place?
Well, Project 57 has always been seen as something that is very much KL-centric, city, urban and all. So what we wanted to do was to basically go out there and tell people the story of Project 57 and at the same time raise awareness about the project. And we wanted for it to be something not just mentally challenging, but as well physically challenging, because then you knew that, we're actually really out there sweating and making sure that we, that it's not just something anyone could do. We wanted it, so that's the physically demanding bit. So, and, but at the same time as we started talking about wanting to do it, we realized that it wasn't just about us raising awareness, going out there raising awareness about our project, but going out there to actually learn from other fellow Malaysians. How is it that they deal with unity, or how is it that they get along so well?
All right, nice. Now, we'll speak a little bit more about what you learned later on in the interview, but first, Collin, what inspired you to be so passionate about this issue as well?
This, when we started Project 57 now 2 years ago, and being from the business community, we are business people, there is a current mindset for the younger people where the unity factor, the patriotism seems to have somewhat diminished a bit. When we hire people for our company, we feel that a lot of them feel somewhat kind of like losing hope in Malaysia in terms of job opportunities and their future. So Project 7 for us is about trying to reignite this fire among the younger people, especially the youth, in looking at Malaysia in a different light, right?
Yeah.
So when we look at a project every year, something significant, we thought, hey, cycling around Malaysia, collecting stories, and everywhere we stop would be a university or a college or a school, and we run a unity workshop, which is something we have put together quite well recently. And maybe we can start a ripple that can turn into a wave, perhaps, right? For the years to come.
But especially, I feel in today's time, the issue, the topic of unity is something that's stressed a lot, especially for us youths. Is it really something that can be taught, or do you think it's just something that should be inherited? And I mean, if we are truly a culture truly a melting pot of cultures, we should be inclusive already, don't you think?
Well, I think, again, it's a learning process, right?
Yeah.
And unity is something that you don't really have a finishing line. It's something that you're always having to work at. It's something that, requires a lot of adjustment as you grow and as you age as well. So that is something that, we as a country, as a nation, as we grow, is something that we keep on having to adjust, having to improve, learning to understand one another. And I think that's the thing that is the critical bit, being able to accept and understand one another even better. That's the key, actually.
Right. How do you suggest we do that?
Well, unity is not just something that you can just put out there as a plan.
Yeah.
It is a feeling.
Exactly.
You know, so it's a feeling, and I think that sincerity and everything about making one understand one another and accepting the fact that diversity is something that is wonderful. And I think, you know, again, it's not just unique to us. As you said just now, a lot of people are actually doing unity projects.
Yeah.
A lot of people are actually involved in it because they realize that there is something happening about this issue.
Yeah.
And everyone does it in their own unique way.
Exactly.
And for us, again, it's just to remind people and shifting the mindset from being negative to actually focusing on what's positive about the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Now, what's the two of you all, of course, have embarked on Project 57 in order to kind of further cement the sense of unity amongst youths. But planning a nationwide event is a huge deal. You know, how did you go about it, and what were some of your early concerns in the beginning? We can start with you, Sadiq.
Okay. When you think about this, the first thing that we were really concerned about, I have to say, is safety. That was, you know, that was paramount. That was the thing that we were making sure. Initially, we did have this dream about having this Forrest Gump kind of effect.
Yeah.
That, you know, we're going to start cycling, and then we're going to reach a certain point, and then there are going to be people joining us.
Yeah.
And that's what we wanted.
Right.
But then we realized that if anything goes wrong, you know, the press, the media, whatever, it can really backfire. So that's why we made sure that we kept it, that safety was really important. We wanted to make sure that, you know, every rider was in a sense insured and that we had the routes planned out. It wasn't 2 people, it wasn't 3 people, it was an entire team that actually had to put this together.
What do you mean by, insured riders being insured?
Yeah, we, you know, through our partners and all, we made sure that our riders were all covered.
Wow.
Just to make sure that if anything, if anything unwanted happened, just in case, we made sure that that was in place.
I actually rode the event. Yeah, I was
That's
there,
right.
and I felt completely safe. There were cars and everything always, and thank you for that. It was a great experience. But, you know, I had a great time. But what about the other riders? What was the turnout like, and also what feedback did the riders have?
The response actually for us was overwhelming. And while we were planning this event, like what Sadiq mentioned, I think there was a lot of things happening in the background. And for us, again, coming from the business background, we always have this thing in our head. We have to always challenge ourselves, right? Push it a bit further from our comfort zone. Yeah. And I'm glad we did. And when we started, we had over 50 riders from Dataran Merdeka to Putrajaya. And a lot of, as the stages go by, a lot of people do ask to join us. Like the second leg in University Tunku Abdul Rahman in Kampar, the students, the numbers could have been larger, but again, as the first year we're doing it, we have to be very conscious of managing it right.
Yeah.
And I think as we go along the coming years, we hopefully would be able to put together something that more and more people can join us. And we have so many corporates now that express interest to come alongside us. The ones that have been with us this year, they were so supportive, and all through the legs, and some of their representatives from their company also joined us for the ride.
That's brilliant. Yeah. But, you know, the whole kind of one of the things that you wanted to do on this ride was to uncover Malaysian stories. You know, that must have been so interesting. There were 9 legs altogether. I'm sure you guys saw and experienced a lot of things. What are some of the stories that stood out for you?
Throughout, I think, the beauty of Malaysia is, again, the diversity, the different people, and what better way, and we were out there, meeting these people, and we have so many stories, we don't know where to start, right? And one in particular, of course, up north in Sungai Petani, we were invited by one of the people we met to the father's house, just like that, right? And we went there, and in his little house in the orchard behind it, and his father was a former police commando, Encik Baharin, and we were picking rambutans, and here he was telling us about the days when he was fighting the communist insurgency, right, with colleagues in the Polis Diraja Malaysia from different cultures, different races, and they fought. People, friends died, spilled blood for the nation. And whenever there was a break from the fighting in the jungles, they would go back to his kampung near there because it was the nearest one. Some of them were from East Malaysia, some Chinese, Indian, whatever, but they ate food that the mother made and they swam in the rivers before they go back into the jungles again to fight. So these kind of stories are just priceless. And
I couldn't agree more. And I also feel like, you know, you can read a story in a book and you can kind of browse it on the internet, but hearing it from you know, the person itself kind of establishes a connection between the two of you that's, you know, kind of irreplaceable, I would say. Did you have any of those experiences, any stories that spoke to you, Sadiq?
We did. And I think the one that I think perhaps impacted the whole team was because we had one of our retail trainees with us during the entire journey. We had Farah and Leah with us, but then we went and she's our Orang Asli retail trainee. Yeah. So we had some time while we were going to transfer from Pahang to Johor, and we decided to go and visit her family. So we went to our house, and the parents received us very warmly and all. And you know, being able to sit down and with her family and listen to his story about the fact that he's letting his young children, you know, teenagers, actually go to a youth development center in Kuala Lumpur to be able to better equip themselves with English, science, and solar skills. It's something very difficult for them to do. You know, I think for any parent it's difficult to do. But then because he realized that communication is the ultimate tool for you to be able to, be seen, to be able to get work, be able to communicate with others better. That is so important. So, you know, for them to be able to do that, it was really wonderful. And to hear it from him, it's like, I want all my children to make sure that when it comes to education and being able to communicate, that is the most important thing for them. So 3 of his kids had already gone there. So
how sweet. Well, these are some brilliant stories and some very valuable lessons there themselves. You know, but bringing it back to Project 57, you guys are a social enterprise, you know, so how did you actually manage to pull out the resources to organize an event of such a large scale?
Well,
with difficulty.
And we did it for free.
I can imagine.
Well, I think it's impossible for us to actually do it without the like-minded partners, you know, and it is wonderful that when you actually sit down and speak to people, speak to corporates, and then you realize that there are people that share your vision. And when you actually, you know, tell them about some of your plans, and when you put something together which has a good framework, a lot of people actually realize that, hey, we want to be a part of this. How can we help? So, you know, we've had some pretty brilliant partners. Yeah,
amazing partners.
Nice. And you guys, you mentioned earlier, you know, your second leg was from Utah in Kampar, and you had pit stops at colleges and universities and had activities with youths to kind of develop the whole united spirit. You know, what would some of these activities involve?
One particular one, for example, in Kuala Terengganu, we had a program with Taylor's University last year where 230 of their business school students were involved in a project with us for 8 weeks. Right? Typically, in the past years, they would go paint the orphanage, for example. That's great, but the impact wasn't like what they want to achieve. So this year, in a project like in Kuala Terengganu, the students during their holiday went with us to Kuala Terengganu and ran the Unity workshop with the school students from Sekolah Menengah Sains Terengganu. So the Unity workshop with these kids went delve into the history of Malaysia, for example, and through the constitution, you know, in a simpler way about the rights of each and every one of us, on the issues with say diversity, culture, of culture, race, our tolerance, acceptance, so on and so forth. So for us, this is so important as what we try to achieve, like the ripple effect, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
So, you know, Collin, you were mentioning about impact a little bit earlier, and one of the aspirations Project 57 has is actually to change the Malaysian mindset one T-shirt at a time. Could you explain to us why T-shirts? What do you mean by this?
Well, okay. So we've talked about what we do, what we're trying to do and all of that, and how do we do it, right? And why are we a social enterprise? So we have a range of merchandise that we actually sell. And we like to think that we found a nice, interesting gap in the market where we have apparel T-shirts are our flagship product. We have other items that we actually make. And so everything is nationalistic in nature, but with a twist.
Okay,
so we
what's
try
the
to make it
twist?
like a little bit street, a little bit cool.
Okay.
So you can see like some of the T-shirts that we wear. There's always something that is, there is something which is either one reflective of our Day of Independence, or something that people can actually look at and immediately identify that, hey, that's very Malaysian, but not just a typical kind of flag. So then for every T-shirt that is sold, there is a substantial contribution to an underserved beneficiary. So whether it's our retail trainees that work with us, or the single mothers that work with us, or even the beneficiary of choice. So there are some beneficiaries that we have actually kind of adopted, these two homes. One is Rumah Kebajikan Rukaya and Yayasan Sunbeams. And that's somehow, it was a natural thing. It was just historical. So from the start, we just worked with them, and it's just carried on. That relationship is just carried on.
And you've actually got plans to sell 1 million of these T-shirts in 2 years to keep on contributing to society the way you have been. You know, how far along are you guys from achieving that? And why'd you set this goal in the first place?
Well, we're quite far away from the target, because we're still quite new, and but the aspiration, the dreams always is about something. You know, 1 million T-shirts will be 1 in 30 Malaysians wearing it, and for us, again, what is measurable is achievable. Right? So whether it'll take a bit longer than that, let's see. But certainly, we feel that it is something that, if enough Malaysians and corporates come along with us, I think we can achieve this goal.
I think so too.
I definitely think so too, and we want to make sure you guys achieve that goal as well. So if there are any of our viewers out there, any Malaysians watching, where can they get this T-shirt or find out more information?
Well, they can either visit us at Lazada, they can visit our website, which is project57.com, go via our social media channels as well. You know, we're also based in the Pet Science Shop in KLCC, and
All right, we have those details up on the screen right now. Thank you so much, Sadiq and Collin, for joining us today and sharing with us all your plans that I think is going to work towards achieving a more united country.
Well, I hope you guys will cycle with us again when we have the
Definitely,
Unity
round 2 for Swana, first round for me. I'm definitely going to join in this time. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So Swarna, I didn't know you joined in on this cycling event. Was it your first time?
Yes, it was my first time, and I was amazed at the fact that, you know, how they kind of put together cycling, and the fact that it was such a great cause that everybody came together to support. And I really, really felt the patriotism while riding. It was brilliant.
Well done. So we're going to take a short break right now, but when we come back, we're going to be speaking to Heart Treasures about skilling some disabled youths, as well as preparing them for the workplace. Thank you.